Hi, my name is Jane, and this is another update on the recipe project. So this is where I left off last time. There's a lot of changes since then. So a quick recap is this is showing eating routines. We have one circle per day. So, sorry, 3 circles per day, 1 per meal. So this is supposed to represent breakfast, lunch, dinner. And I collected the data for 40 days. So what I decided to do was create it as a spread and have, I believe it's 20 each. Yeah, 5 by 4. And I was testing out, my first priority to test out was color, because when I decided what was the first thing I wanted people to notice when they're looking at this visualization, it would have to be color. That was the biggest priority in terms of hierarchy. Hierarchy is really important actually, because I had a workshop past Monday, and I told students that, when you think about hierarchy, you have to think about what you want your viewer or your reader to see first. As humans, we live in a linear way. We live second by second. So there's only so much we could take at a time, and we can take it one at a time. So when you think about like when you're going to when you're shopping, what do they display at the front of the store, right? That's what I mean by hierarchy. When you're thinking about what to show first, what do you want to grab their attention with first? And they usually display things on sale or things they think would be good value, right? That they think would sell well for stores. The same thing with data visualization. You want to display, it in a hierarchical fashion. You don't want to treat every element equally. So you can do that through color, you can do it through size, you can do it through placement, orientation. There's many ways to do that. And I'm going to achieve that through color. So for me, color represents how cuisines, the type of food I eat, mixes together. So I eat a mix of Chinese food, Western food, and also Korean food, because my boyfriend is Korean. So I eat a mix of things, and I want the reader to see the diversity of things I'm eating, and how I'm also very conservative in a sense. I try to conserve Chinese traditions and food and practices, and so they'll see a trend where I eat mostly strictly Chinese food, but I do mix it up sometimes, and we've adapted to include Western food because of convenience, because it's a lot easier and also a lot healthier. So anyways, color. So I was exploring color, and it was very challenging because, as I mentioned in the last video, with color, if you look at, if you do proof colors, and see which one should we do. This is Pertinopia. It's you can't see a difference, right, between the colors here. It's not the full experience, and so I was really struggling with that, and I decided to explore that. So I made a copy of the artboard above, and here what I've got was I had all the key variables I was going to show. So food style, so the cuisine, right? Number of people who I was going to be eating with. So I'm going to zoom in on this, because I was stuck. I didn't know how to move forward, because this looked like really bad. It didn't look easy. It didn't look understandable, and I needed to change it up. So I decided to list all the variables and iterate each individually. I actually did this on my notebook as well, where I iterated each variable individually, because if you try to iterate many variables all at once, you're gonna go crazy. It's really hard to do that. So here in my notebook, you can see that I listed here meal type, right? This is meal type. It's hard to see that. Meal type, and then I iterated a bunch of examples, prep and cook time. So this one, I had a bunch of examples as well. And so I did one at a time. This is something I just thought maybe this is a good idea. So food style was a big challenge because it was strictly color-based. It was important that I show how this is more of a cultural mosaic, in a sense of food coming together, but also still maintain the individuality. And so watercolors was the best bet. I had experience working with watercolor brushes in the past in Illustrator, and so I thought, why not do it this time? Actually apply it to this project. So I was exploring how these shapes work and different types of watercolor brushes. They're really beautiful, and let's see, I don't remember what I did exactly. I think here what I've got is, right, okay. So I had four different types category within the cuisines, right, styles. So it was Chinese, Western, Korean, and other. So other could be anything else. I didn't have that much variation, so grouping into other wasn't a big deal. I chose Chinese, Korean, Western, and Korean because those are the ones that mattered the most. Those are the ones that are meaningful to what I want to say within this project. So I know Western is also very broad, but it's hard to like break down food like toast, because toast is not Chinese, right? It's traditionally not really Chinese. Or if you think about like even sunny side up eggs, when I looked it up, it's actually not. There's nothing in Chinese cuisine that uses sunny side up. Traditionally, we're speaking traditionally, right? I'm thinking about like my grandmother would be like, why would you cook it like that, right? I've never met my grandmother, but I'm just imagining. And so here we've got, I decided, okay, how to explore 4 different colors, and I just trying different shapes here. Somehow this looks like a Chinese character to me, but I don't know which one. And here we've got 1 per color, right? And so I took this idea and I brought it over here and I kept playing with it. And I was like, okay, 1 per color. I just designated random arbitrary colors. And then I was like, okay, it would look something like this, where it's, if it remove these bars, because when you draw it as a watercolor, you can't determine how the waves perform. So I had to first draw in the overall lines, and then I just later on added the actual shape. Let me see, it might be locked. Yeah, see, there's just the individual shapes. But it's just a line segment, right? But when you apply the brush for watercolor, that's how it looks like. Okay, so this is where it got a little interesting. So if I rely solely on color, right? Let's go here. Let's proof colors. It's not bad. You can still see different colors, but it's not very prominent, right? You see a color here. These 2 colors look very similar, and we have here. Let's do another one. It's very similar, I think. It's a little bit lighter. So I would say it's still not strong enough and not visceral enough, like not quick enough to say, okay, this is this color, this is this color. And so double encoding, right? That's really important. And double coding is essentially just adding another layer to denote what you want to say. So in addition to color, I'm using letters here, and I was exploring letters because I can use letters because every single cuisine had a different starting character. So Chinese for C, Western for W, K for Korean, other for O for other. And I didn't know how to display this. I was exploring because for some reason this kept looking like a jean logo brand. I don't know, like Levi's or something, Calvin Klein. It just looked like clothing brand, but I was struggling with this style, and then I was playing with this one. I didn't like how this looked because okay, let's talk about this. First of all, when you have it as it looks like they're neatly sectioned off. This is a very clean way to do something, but I don't want it to be like we're sectioned off. I want it to be we're coming together. So this is why something like this was a lot more appealing to me than something like this. Subtle visual metaphors, but big difference in terms of how you feel about it. Oh yeah, I played so much with color. So that's the thing. You have a lot of things you just have to keep doing. When you're iterating something, a lot of it is just like you keep doing it, and somehow it will just strike something. This looks like MasterCard's logo. Somehow it will just like strike, right? Something will strike you, something will come. So I was stuck for about a week. I couldn't get anywhere, but it got interesting. So I decided to go this route, this one. This is the one that I liked because it made the most sense. I liked how there's different placements, right? There's C, W, K, O, and it was very clear. And so I decided to designate colors. So I designated Chinese for red, Western for yellow, Korean for blue, other for purple. And what I did was I made the lines go through the letter it was representing. So if it was C, if it was Chinese, it would go through the C. If it was W, it would go through this. So it's kind of like it takes up that space. So here for Korean, it goes this way, right? It goes on the bottom. It cuts this way. If it ever has like a KW, I'll have to think about how to do that. Probably like sideways, because it'll be like this and then right. So similar to this actually. So I thought this looked really good actually. So I tested it. So when you have Chinese, it looked like this, and everything else would be kind of whited out, dimmed down. So this is very clear, right? Even if you don't use the colors, you can still understand this is for Chinese, this is for Western food, this is Korean, this is other. And if you're able to see all the colors, it's a more of an enriching experience, right? So you see how it's really nice how the watercolor effect kind of moves in together, because I think a lot of the food, I combine them, I adapt them, right? So an example is in the morning, every day I have the same thing. I have oatmeal. And traditionally, I know people usually have milk with oatmeal, but I can't have milk because I'm lactose intolerant. So what I do is I mix it with soy milk. Now, soy milk, it's not the soy milk I get at the grocery store. I actually make my own soy milk. And soy milk is very Chinese. If you go to China, if you ever visit, you'll see a lot of vendors outside just selling soy milk, and they're like freshly made. They're still warm, right? So I make my own soy milk. I have a machine, and I usually pour that into the oatmeal. Now that's a very good example of how I mix things, and it's a convenient way how we live, right? We cook oatmeal because it's fast, it's quick, and it's healthy. And I use soy milk because that's what I can consume, and also it is true to my roots. So this is a good example symbolizing that for me, where it's bringing things together, right? If it was like a clean cut right down the middle, right? If it was just a clean cut right down the middle, it defeats the purpose of things coming together, where it's just like, you are on your side, I'm on my side. But that's not part of the metaphor I want to explore. Okay, so this is where things were finally getting interesting. What else can I show you? Okay, so between here and here, I took so much time figuring out how to print this thing, because initially my idea was a print. It wasn't actually going to be a booklet, and I'm going to show you. I actually prototyped it out. So I got a bunch of scrap paper and I cut it up into the size I wanted it to be, and it was supposed to be like a fold out. It's supposed to be something like this. I wanted it to be like this, where it folds out. It's just one huge sheet of paper, right? It gets printed on both sides, and it can fold, and it can go down, right? It can go down like that. So, and what happens is, I think I folded it in the wrong direction. I have a smaller version. This is too big. Where is it? Give me a second. Where it would be one sheet, so there's no need for binding. You don't need any stitches or saddle stitching. My idea was to have it, okay, so a sheet of paper. This is scrap paper. This is a smaller version of this. Grab a piece of paper, fold it in half, and then you can fold it like this, right? It goes, it's like accordion, and you could go through it like that. Like it's like a little page by page thing. And I thought this would be interesting. And then what I was going to do was open it up, and the back side would have this visualization. That's what it was going to be. It was going to be like that. So that's why it's landscape. Well, I think I originally had it as landscape. Yeah, I had it as landscape like that. So it's going to be like something like this. But that wouldn't work because it would be... I couldn't find a single printer in Toronto that could do something like that. It exists though. These things have been printed, so it looks like this. This is from Nuit Blanche, right? If you open it up, it's actually just one huge sheet that's been folded down and printed double-sided, right? Nowhere in Toronto can I find that would print something like this. And I spent hours upon hours. Now, I don't come from a graphic design background. I never studied graphic design, so I never had the time or put the time into to learn about the printers in Toronto. And I put my time in for that last week, and it was horrible because I couldn't find anyone who could do this. I called a couple of shops, called the big ones. I looked up smaller ones, and a lot of smaller ones don't list their website. You have to kind of know them word of mouth. But if they're really small, they usually it's usually a lot more expensive because obviously they have higher quality. but their techniques are also a little bit different. They're not usually meant for mass printing, so it's not cheap. And when you go to bigger shops to print something, they usually have a minimum print requirement. So I want to just print one, but some of them will be like, we need to print at least 10 or, you know, maybe 5 to make it worthwhile. So I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what kind of print sizes to work. Now, this is something I should have figured out earlier. I underestimated this, which is understanding what the final print format is and pinpointing a specific print shop that can get this done. So for I was going to do cards as well, right? And I pinpointed a print shop, which is based in Hong Kong. That was fine, but this one, I just underestimated it. I thought it could be done. So what was the final decision? I still want this format because I like it. It's compactable and can spread it out and can look at the bigger picture. I really like that. So I decided to go with tabloid. So tabloid is a little bit smaller. I don't think I have it here. Tabloid is 11 inches by 17 inches. It's like a newspaper size. I have it. Yeah, I think this is the tabloid version I cut out for myself. Okay, this is tabloid, right? It's quite large, and my idea was to fold it, right, and then, hold on, I'm doing this wrong. Oops, there we go. Well, anyways, okay. Forward like that, so it'll be this big, which isn't like, it's about the size of my hand, right? So this is the best I can do. So I spent a lot of time figuring out print shop details. That was my mistake. I learned my lesson, never doing that again. Always going to go backwards. Always figure out who can print this, who can get it done, and then start designing to fit that layout. Man, what a mistake. So I believe this was, I don't think this is 11 by 17, was it? Double check. Yeah, this is 11 by 7. No, oops, I typed it wrong. 17 inch. This doesn't look right. 11 inch by 17. Yeah, that's the true size. I don't remember what size this was. This is a different size. But I was trying to figure out the sizes, which was a big challenge. I'll show you the next iteration, which was very different. So it's amazing doing this, because when I try to show you what happens and how it looks like, it's huge changes all the time. Okay, so that's still there. I might have deleted a couple things. Okay, so this is the 11 by 17 I ended up with. Whew. The challenge with this is that all right, let's go through it. So what we've got is we've got the colors, right? So I think this is actually doesn't have actual data. It's just dummy data. It's a placeholder. So we have the date here, right? We have inches per meal. This is supposed to show number of people who I ate with. So if it's just one, it's just myself. 2, I have this line connecting because I thought it's important to show connection, but it's very obstructive how it looks like. So I changed that. And this is supposed to show the state of the food I ate. So was it from pantry? Was it fresh? Was it frozen? That's what the 3 means. This is supposed to show how long it took to prepare the meal, like prep and cook. I think that was it. So this looked very bulky, right? It looked kind of bulky because it doesn't. I think the problem with this was that it was very asymmetrical, which was really hard to look at. And one of the things I really wanted to do was connect things. I wanted to show, hey, if I had leftovers here, it went over here, and then, you know, sometimes we would have if it had dinner leftovers, it would be like for lunch, and we eat it again for dinner. So I really wanted to show the connection. So with these things on the side, technically speaking, it was really much in the way, and that was a problem. But that's kind of what I had up to that point. So you see, I think I tested out something here. No, I didn't. Okay. So here I was testing out how to fit it in 11 by 17. This fit 8 by 5, so that's 40. And then, oh, I changed this a little bit. So I was moving things around, right? So here I have it. I have it at the bottom. Before I had it at the side, I had this over here because I think what happened was I printed it. I don't think I have it here. I printed it, and this looks so small. Everything was hard to see, so it wasn't really good. So I have to try and make elements bigger, so it's easier to see. That's important. You want to be able to see it. All right, so let's show you the point that I had a breakthrough. So I kept playing around with. Oh, so this is more recent. Okay, so I'm not gonna save over this. Nothing went through. So what we've got here is me iterating how these elements are going to fit together. So I moved this on the side. I moved it on top. I moved like the time. This is prep, right? Prep and cook. I moved it at the bottom. Moved it around it. So it looks good, but you know, this is more symmetrical, right? It's right in the middle. If you look at this one, it's a lot more symmetrical, but it still looked off. It took up a lot of vertical space, which I didn't have the luxury to give. If I went with this, it would have taken way too much space. It wouldn't have fit everything I wanted to fit. So I was trying to figure out how to take less space. There's a lot of challenges to wrestle with. I was playing with maybe I can take up more horizontal space. You know, it looked bad because once again it ran to the problem of connecting things. Or I wanted to show how things flowed. So here was where it got interesting. So I've done this before. I've had it on the line of the circle, but I actually decided to I cut it in half. So technically you don't need to see the full shape. You just need to see the general idea of the shape. And it looked so much better. So I was like, oh, okay, this looks good. What if I did it for the number of people I was eating with? And it worked really well. And so I thought, okay, this is great. How do you show time? What a hard question to answer. Time has many ways to show it. And usually it's circular because of the clock. And so I thought, okay, maybe I'll pretend this is like a clock and I'll draw this shape around it. So each full circle is an hour. Straightforward, right? And so I kind of came to something like this. So I just offset the path, and I had 1, 2, 3, 4, so up to 4 hours of like cook and prep time. I was like, okay, this is actually gonna work because it looks symmetrical. It's not gonna take up too much space, and it has everything I needed to say. So this was a really huge breakthrough. You'd have no idea how happy I was when I was at this point. Look at what I had to do to get here. I had to play around, right? And this didn't come up until the very end. So this is why iteration is really important, because you just don't know where you're gonna get until you keep pushing it. And the thing with iteration is it can't stay in your head. It has to be put down somewhere, on paper, on a program. You have to test it out. Iteration is a lot of do it. How does it feel? Adjust this and a little minor adjustments here and there, and then you get to something interesting. And so I was like banging my head against the wall for a long time, and then I finally got to this point, and I was really excited when I got here. And so this is what I could work with, and I kept playing around with it. And so I'll leave it there. I have a couple more updates, but that'll be for next time. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.